when we start to think about something like Bitcoin, one of the big questions is you can look at what I'll call micro Bitcoin data, is on-chain metrics, kind of market structure, all of the supply-demand mechanisms, but it's got this macro backdrop to it. I think I've asked you before, but given the current situation, are you more putting more weight on the macro kind of environment or on the micro market structure of an asset like Bitcoin if you are evaluating Bitcoin and what could happen in the future?
Yeah, no, I think investors would do well to do both, and this is sort of the issue. And this is, we're all human, right? We only have 24 hours in the day, and so we're all going to specialize in whatever's either easiest or been taught to us throughout our careers. But the reality is, if you want to be a great investor, I think you need to do both. You need to understand the bottom-up fundamentals of the particular assets and asset classes that you're allocating capital to, but you also need to understand where you are in the broader cycle. There's sort of three cycles that we really specialize in terms of measuring, mapping, predicting with precise precision at 42 Macro, and that's the growth cycle. Where are you in the growth cycle? It's a sine curve, either accelerating or decelerating. You're at the lows or the highs. Where are you in the inflation cycle? Same dynamics. And then where are you in the liquidity cycle, which is the most important cycle as it relates to getting financial markets right? You need to have a very clear view on where we're headed from a growth and inflation standpoint in order to anticipate inflections in the liquidity cycle. So I think if you have a good handle on that, or you outsource the risk management of it all to people like me, or someone who does what I do even better than I do, then I think you can really reallocate your time and focus on the bottom-up micro fundamentals. But I suspect the problem with a lot of investors watching, the problem with a lot of investors who came into this week and are having a bad week, is that they spent entirely too much time focusing on the bottom-up micro fundamentals and not nearly enough time either focusing on or allocating to resources like myself.
Got it. And so when you look at something like Bitcoin, let's go to the micro factors. Obviously, there's been a ton of talk about realized price, or kind of the on-chain cost basis. I think last week you had told us that anywhere around that like 28,000 range, you'd start getting excited. We obviously breached 28,000, got down to somewhere in that $25,000 range. Realized price seems to be around 24,000. How are you thinking about these? And full well understanding, like now we're talking about micro improvements of various prices of a couple $1,000s, but how do you think about where we are and some of the price action that's occurred, given the models you guys have?
Yeah, so I would actually say it's quite encouraging that we held. So if you look at the Fibonacci retracement analysis that I put out on Twitter yesterday, relative to the entire bull run from the lows that you and Paulina were talking about just prior to my coming on to the highs that we observed last fall, the 61.8 retracement level, which has been a very sort of sound level to kind of invest and speculate in Bitcoin in throughout its life cycle. That level is at 28,774, and so we kind of breached below that, and now we're trading right back above it. So it's clear that other investors are keying off that level and saying, "Hey, this is a good price to buy." Now so I do believe that is still a reasonable price to buy. The problem with we're buying it today is that we're not yet near that sort of inflection point in the liquidity cycle. We're still in a very adverse spot in the liquidity cycle. So, you never want to use pure technical analysis, pure quantitative analysis. That's what we specialize in, 42 Macro. You never want to just isolate one variable when you're making asset allocation decisions. You have to marry, obviously the technical analysis, you have to measure that with where we are in the liquidity cycle. If we got to 28,000, let's call it 4, 5, 6 months from now, and think we're closer to a Federal Reserve policy pivot, then I think you buy it with back up the truck of both hands. Now, the reason I sound cautious and concerned right now, irrespective of the fact that the level held, is the fact that, hey, the next line of support in this Fibonacci analysis is not till we get to 19,273. So if 28,000 doesn't hold over the next few weeks and couple of months, then it's probably a very quick wash down to 19,000. That's going to cause a lot of problems, obviously, in the stablecoin community, et cetera. So I'm not saying that will occur, but the probability of that occurring is still very elevated relative to where we are in the liquidity cycle. And so I think everyone to be aware of that risk.
Yeah, I think that's a great way to kind of look at it. Talk to us a little bit more, not just maybe in this situation, but in general. You obviously have a model. You have kind of, hey, look, this could happen. If this doesn't happen, then this other thing could happen, et cetera. How do you think about kind of entering into markets? So for a while now, a couple of weeks, you've been talking about raising cash, right, and being able to kind of withstand the drawdown in prices of assets. And obviously, those assets have drawn down. If people had raised cash, and that's a big if, but if they had, how do you think about the best investors in the world starting to redeploy their capital? Is it I'm going to try to time the bottom in one shot? Do they dollar cost average? Do they just wait for confirmation and then go back on the way up? Like, how does that play out with many of the clients that you talk to on a daily basis?
Yeah, so just in general, so I spent my career in the institutional finance community, hedge funds, mutual funds, et cetera. And so the number one thing they do, there's a few things they do that's very different than how the average retail investor invested. I'd say with respect to the question you asked, it's never making all or nothing investment decisions. You don't want to go from being max bullish to max bearish or very bullish to very bearish in one day or in one series of trades. What you want to be doing is making incremental bets based on the incremental changes in the data and the incremental changes in the probabilistic path forward for the growth cycle, the inflation cycle, and the liquidity cycle. And so at some point, in the next several months or a couple of quarters, who knows, we have a reasonable view. We have an expectation in terms of when we're likely to see some of these changes. But the reality is you want to start to incrementally allocate, get incrementally more bullish to the extent you have raised cash and you're not panicking on a week like this week. And we've certainly given plenty of warnings for investors to raise cash, because what raising cash does is it allows you to, one, sleep soundly at night on weeks like this week or days, like what we've observed in the last 24 to 48 hours. But most importantly, it allows you to start taking bites on that. I tweeted out this morning in our Macro Minute program, and thanks to everybody who tunes into that. It's not just about dollar cost averaging, particularly when you're in an adverse spot in the cycle. You want to be thoughtful about the size of your DCA purchases. You want to be thoughtful about the frequency of your DCA purchases. And so as someone who's committed to dollar cost averaging Bitcoin, if you had heard me talk about this, 3, 4, 5 months ago, you could have slowed down those purchases, reduced the size of those purchases, and now you have even more capital sitting in your war chest to actually make better purchases and speed that up when we get closer to a pivot in the liquidity cycle. And that's what I mean by dynamic dollar cost averaging.
Got it. And so when you see kind of this happening and people start to go back into the market, is there some sort of confirmation that they end up looking at, or some sort of risk management? So a great example would be, hey, I'm going to start dollar cost averaging now. Oh, wait, the asset continues to fall. And if it falls a certain percent, I'm actually going to get out of the market. Like, how short-term are these decisions, and how much are people waiting for those confirmations versus they just take a really, really time horizon? They're like, hey, man, I love the asset at, $60,000. At 28,000, it sounds cool. If it goes to 25, that sounds even better. And if it goes to 19, then I'm gonna buy as much as I can. Like, how I guess sophisticated and kind of minute detail are people looking at versus there is some intuition that gets overlaid here?
Yeah, so I think there's a combination of intuition and also what you can afford to stomach as an investor. And so I think with respect to something like dollar cost averaging specifically, like that to me is a personal choice. Like, how much money are you willing to risk and lose, and at what speed or what frequency to ride out a bear cycle like what we're currently experiencing? I think, just as a function of process, you never want to be looking for confirmation from markets. And the reason I say that is that markets very seldomly give you a very clear indication of what's happening. In fact, all of the best trades that I've ever seen in my career, either personally or I've seen other investors make and put on and discuss with them in institutional meetings, it's usually when things are not very clear. If something's clear when you put the trade on, that means the trade has already probably worked and it's already probably very crowded. So don't expect some point in the next 3 to 6 months to get some sort of all clear signal that it's okay to go buy a bunch of Bitcoin. It doesn't work like that. What you're going to get is incremental evidence from the economic statistics that get reported that say, hey, we're getting closer to a pivot in the liquidity cycle. What you're going to get is incremental evidence from the change in valuations across asset markets to say, hey, we're getting closer to levels that might trigger other investors to start buying. And going back to that financial conditions chart, I don't think we're at those levels where valuation is broadly supportive to have people, everyone, including the largest asset managers in the world, hold their nose and start buying. If you look at the flows data, a lot of them are just now starting to sell in terms of, kind of exiting the equity market, et cetera. So again, You're not going to get an all clear signal, but what you are going to get is a lot of information along the way that can tell you to dial up or dial down the amount of risk you're taking and how fast you're taking that risk. And that's exactly what we specialize in helping investors with.